You know what they say about assumptions? They make an idiot out of everyone involved, especially when you're dealing with humans. My name is Dr. Quinn Sharpclaw, Chief Medical Officer aboard the starship Thornblade, and after 87 cycles of treating everything from Zalarian poison mishaps to Gorbian metal drinking contests, I thought I had seen the absolute limits of biological stupidity. Turns out, I was wrong. Dead wrong. But humans were something entirely different. Dr. Sharpclaw, my assistant, Nurse Pix Brightfur, called from across the medical bay. The human delegation is requesting permission to bring their medical supplies aboard. I looked up from my patient files, noting the way her whiskers twitched with barely contained amusement. Medical supplies? What exactly are we talking about here, Pix? Well, sir. She paused, consulting her datapad. According to their manifest, they're carrying approximately 47 different chemical compounds that our database classifies as either extremely toxic, potentially lethal, or absolutely do not ingest under any circumstances. Of course they were. The human delegation had requested passage to the Outer Rim colonies, claiming they needed to deliver humanitarian aid to refugee settlements. Captain Torn Steelfang had agreed, mostly because humans paid in rare metals and asked very few questions about cargo manifests. What he hadn't mentioned was that their idea of humanitarian aid apparently consisted of enough poison to eliminate a small moon's population. Send them in, I said, resigned to what I was certain would be the most entertaining medical consultation of my career. But keep the emergency antidotes ready. Something tells me we're going to need them. The human who entered my medical bay was Dr. Marcus Kane, a tall, pale creature with brown hair and those unsettling forward-facing eyes that marked his species as predators. He carried a metal case that my scanners immediately flagged as containing hazardous materials. Dr. Sharpclaw, he said, extending his hand in that bizarre human greeting ritual. Thank you for agreeing to review our medical kit. I understand there might be some concerns about the contents. Concerns. That was putting it mildly. According to my preliminary scans, the case contained enough acetyl salicylic acid to kill a Thorian battle rhino, sufficient ethanol to dissolve small spacecraft parts, and something called caffeine that registered toxicity levels comparable to military-grade nerve agents. Dr. Kane, I said, settling into my chair and folding my claws carefully. Perhaps you could explain why your medical kit reads like a terrorist's shopping list? He laughed. That strange barking sound humans made when they found something amusing. I suppose our medicines do seem a bit extreme to other species, but I assure you, everything in here is perfectly safe for human consumption. Safe for human consumption. Right. And I was the Empress of the Void Nebula. Show me, I said, activating my recording equipment. If these humans were going to accidentally poison themselves on my ship, I at least wanted documentation for the inevitable inquiry. Doctor. Kane opened the case, revealing neat rows of bottles, tablets, and vials. He picked up a small white tablet and held it up. This is aspirin. We use it for pain relief, fever reduction, and inflammation control. I checked my scanner readings. That's a blood thinner potent enough to cause hemorrhaging in most species. One tablet could kill a Zalarian in minutes. Yes, but humans metabolize it differently. We've been using acetyl salicylic acid for over a century without major issues. Without major issues. I made a note in my files. Human definition of major issues requires further investigation. He continued his demonstration, showing me what he called ibuprofen, a liver toxin that would shut down most organic filtration systems. Acetaminophen, which my database helpfully noted could cause catastrophic cellular breakdown in 94.7% of known species. And diphenhydramine, a neurological suppressant that doubled as an effective sedative for large predators. And this, he said, holding up a small brown bottle, is our emergency stimulant. We call it coffee. I nearly fell out of my chair. That's liquid caffeine. Do you have any idea what that compound does to cellular metabolism? makes you alert and focused. It triggers systemic hyperactivity, cardiac arrhythmia, and eventual cardiovascular collapse. We use caffeine in laboratory settings to study the effects of controlled poisoning. Dr. Kane shrugged. Humans drink it every morning. Some of us consume it multiple times daily. Multiple times daily. I was beginning to understand why the galactic community viewed humans as either incredibly brave or completely insane. Dr. Kane, I said, leaning forward, I cannot, in good conscience, allow you to distribute these substances to alien populations. The liability alone would bankrupt the shipping company. I understand your concerns, he replied, but we're only treating human refugees. Our medical protocols are specifically designed for human physiology. That was when Nurse Brightfur burst through the medical bay doors, her fur standing on end with panic. Doctor! Emergency in Cargo Bay 7. The Kethari delegation's cub is dying. I grabbed my emergency kit and rushed toward the cargo bay, Dr. Kane following close behind. The Kethari were one of the most respected species in the galaxy, HFY. Peaceful, intelligent, and absolutely devoted to their young. If something happened to their cub under our care, it would be a diplomatic catastrophe. We found the scene in chaos. The Kethari delegation, Ambassador Kree Goldmane, his mate Vera Moonwhisper, and their adolescent cub Zap Brightpaw, he chest gathered around the young one, who was convulsing violently on the cargo bay floor. His golden fur had turned a sickly gray color, and his breathing was shallow and erratic. What happened? I demanded, immediately scanning the cub with my medical tricorder. Unknown pathogen, Ambassador Goldmane said, his voice tight with fear. Zap was exploring the lower decks when he suddenly collapsed. He's been deteriorating for the past 20 minutes. My scanner readings were grim. Severe toxin exposure, multiple organ failure, cellular breakdown accelerating by the minute. Whatever the cub had encountered, it was killing him fast. Get him to the medical bay immediately, I ordered. Pix. Prepare the full decontamination suite and emergency life support. As we transported the dying cub, I ran through every treatment protocol in my database. Nothing matched the symptom profile. The toxin was unlike anything I'd encountered. It seemed to target the nervous system, while simultaneously attacking cellular regeneration pathways. In the medical bay, I tried everything. Neural stabilizers, cellular repair boosters, broad-spectrum antidotes, even experimental treatments that existed only in theoretical literature. Nothing worked. The cub's condition continued to deteriorate. Doctor, Vera Moonwhisper whispered, tears streaming down her furred cheeks. Is there nothing you can do? I looked at my readings, at the desperate parents, at the young life slipping away on my examination table. According to every medical database in the galaxy, Zap Brightpaw had maybe 10 minutes left. That was when Dr. Kane stepped forward. Dr. Sharpclaw, he said quietly. I might have something that could help. I turned to him, noting the serious expression on his predatory features. Dr. Kane, this is not the time for experimental human medicine. That cub is dying, which is exactly why we should try, he replied. I recognize those symptoms. We've seen similar cases in humans exposed to quantum radiation poisoning. There's a treatment, but what? It involves human medicine, specifically, a combination of acetaminophen for cellular protection, caffeine for metabolic stimulation, and a synthetic compound we call vitamin C for antioxidant therapy. I stared at him. You want to give a dying alien cub a cocktail of substances that would kill most species? I want to save his life, Dr. Kane said simply. The quantum radiation creates a cascade failure in cellular repair mechanisms. These compounds, in the right combination, can interrupt that cascade and restore normal function. Absolutely not, I said firmly. I will not be responsible for poisoning a Kethari cub with human toxins. Then let me be responsible, Dr. Kane replied. This is my medical opinion, my recommendation, my risk to take. Ambassador Goldmane looked between us, desperation evident in his golden eyes. What are you saying, human doctor? I'm saying I have medicine that might save your son. But it's human medicine, designed for human physiology. There are risks. Greater risks than letting him die? Vera asked, her voice breaking. Dr. Kane met my gaze. Dr. Sharpclaw, I've studied interspecies physiology. The Kethari have similar enough metabolic pathways that this treatment should work. Should being the operative word. And if you're wrong, if those compounds kill him instead of saving him, then at least we tried something instead of watching him die. I looked at my scanner readings again. 7 minutes. Maybe 6. The cub's life signs were fading fast, and I was out of options. The liability forms alone will take more time than we have, I muttered. Forget the liability forms, Ambassador Goldmain said. Dr. Kane, if you believe your medicine can save my son, I give you permission to try. Ambassador, I protested. You don't understand what you're authorizing. These substances will either save my cub or end his suffering more quickly, he interrupted. Either outcome is preferable to watching him die slowly. Dr. Kane was already preparing his compounds, mixing precise measurements of acetaminophen, caffeine, and vitamin C into a solution. His hands moved with the confidence of a physician who had performed this procedure before. Dr. Sharpclaw, he said as he worked, I need you to monitor his vital signs. If there's any indication of adverse reaction, we'll stop immediately. Stop immediately. As if we could reverse the effects of human poison once it entered the cub's system. This is insane, I muttered, but I positioned my scanners and began continuous monitoring. Doctor. Kane approached the examination table where young Zap lay barely conscious. Zap, can you hear me? I'm going to give you some medicine. It might taste strange, but I need you to drink it all, okay? The cub's eyes fluttered open, focusing on the human with effort. Medicine? Medicine, doctor. Kane confirmed, supporting the cub's head gently. Trust me, little one. And then, despite every instinct screaming at me to stop this madness, I watched Dr. Kane administer human medicine to a dying alien child. The reaction was immediate and completely unexpected. Instead of the catastrophic organ failure I anticipated, Zap's vital signs suddenly stabilized. The gray color began fading from his fur, replaced by healthy golden tones. His breathing deepened and regularized. The convulsions stopped entirely. By the 7 moons, Nurse Brightfur whispered. Look at the cellular regeneration readings. I couldn't believe what my scanners were showing me. The quantum radiation damage was reversing itself. Damaged neural pathways were repairing at an accelerated rate. The cub's immune system had not only accepted the human compounds, but was using them to facilitate recovery at a pace that defied medical explanation. How? I asked, staring at Dr. Kane. How is this possible? He smiled that strange human expression of satisfaction. Sometimes the best medicine isn't the safest medicine. It's the medicine that works. Zap sat up on the examination table, looking around, with clear, bright eyes. Mom? Dad? What happened? Vera Moonwhisper collapsed with relief, gathering her son into her arms while Ambassador Goldmain placed a grateful hand on Dr. Kane's shoulder. You saved him, the ambassador said, his voice thick with emotion. Human doctor, you saved my son with poison. Not poison, doctor. Kane corrected gently. Medicine. There's a difference. Even if the line sometimes seems thin, I was still processing what I had witnessed. Human medicine, substances that should have killed the cub instantly, had instead performed what could only be described as a miraculous healing. Every principle of xenobiology I understood had just been turned completely upside down. Dr. Kane, I said slowly, I owe you an apology. And an explanation. Your medical kit. It's not just safe for humans, is it? He shook his head. Humans have been accidentally discovering universal medical principles for centuries. We just never realized it because we assumed other species would react the same way we do to these compounds. But the toxicity readings, the danger classifications, are based on standard dosages and typical applications. he finished. What we just did was precision medicine. Specific compounds, exact dosages, targeting a particular condition. It's not about whether a substance is poisonous or not. It's about how you use it. Ambassador Goldmane looked between us. Are you saying that human medicine could help other species? I'm saying, Doctor, Kane replied carefully, that maybe we should start thinking about medicine differently. Instead of assuming substances are universally dangerous, maybe we should study how they interact with different physiologies under different circumstances. As I watched the Kethari family reunite with their healthy cub, I realized something that would change everything about how I practiced medicine. Humans hadn't just brought a case of bizarre chemicals aboard our ship. They had brought a completely different approach to healing. One that prioritized results over caution, innovation over tradition. And for the first time in my career, I wondered what other impossible cures might be hiding in the human medical kit. 3 hours later, my medical bay looked like a war zone. Word had spread faster than a plague outbreak through the ship's communication system, and apparently every species aboard the Thornblade had suddenly developed mysterious ailments that required immediate human consultation. Dr. Sharpclaw, Nurse Brightfur announced, barely keeping the exasperation out of her voice. We now have 17 different delegations requesting access to human medical treatments. The Vaxian Trade Minister claims his chronic joint pain has returned. The Thorian security chief insists his sleep disorders have worsened, and 3 separate Zalarian diplomats have suddenly remembered ancient family curses that require exotic remedies. Ancient family curses. Right. And I was the grand healer of the universe. Doctor. Kane emerged from the supply closet where he had been organizing his apparently miraculous poison collection. Doctor. Sharpclaw. I understand this situation has become somewhat complicated, but I want to be clear about something. What happened with Zap was a specific treatment for a specific condition. Human medicine isn't some magical cure-all. Tell that to them. I gestured toward the growing crowd outside my medical bay. Through the transparent aluminum windows, I could see representatives from at least 8 different species, all clutching various body parts and looking hopeful. Captain Steelfang chose that moment to make his grand entrance, his massive frame filling the doorway as his metal-plated hide caught the overhead lighting. Doctor. Sharpclaw. What exactly is happening in my medical bay? Captain, I said, attempting to maintain some semblance of professional dignity. We've had an unexpected breakthrough in interspecies medical treatment. His yellow eyes narrowed dangerously. Breakthrough? I've got half my passengers demanding access to human medicine, the other half filing complaints about dangerous substances on board, and 3 different governments sending priority messages about potential treaty violations. Explain. Dr. Kane stepped forward. Captain Steelfang, I treated a dying Kethari cub with human compounds. The treatment was successful, but now everyone seems to think human medicine can solve any medical problem. Can it? Captain Steelfang asked bluntly. No, Dr. Kane replied firmly. Human medicine works for humans because we evolved alongside these compounds. Other species might react completely differently. As if summoned by our conversation, Ambassador Goldmane entered the medical bay, still carrying his now healthy son. Dr. Kane, Dr. Sharpclaw, I wanted to thank you again for saving Zap. But I also need to inform you that the Galactic Medical Council has been notified about today's incident. My hearts collectively skipped several beats. The Galactic Medical Council? Why? Standard protocol for any unregistered medical treatment used on non-native species, Ambassador Goldmane explained. They're sending an investigation team to review the case and determine whether human medical compounds should be classified as controlled substances. Controlled substances. This was getting better by the minute. How long do we have? I asked. Their ship will intercept us in approximately 6 hours, Ambassador Goldmane replied. They want to interview everyone involved and examine the remaining human medical supplies. Dr. Kane looked troubled. If they classify our medicines as controlled substances, we won't be able to deliver medical aid to the refugee colonies. People will die because they can't access basic human health care. People might die anyway if these compounds prove dangerous to other species, I pointed out. We got lucky with ZAP. The next patient might not be so fortunate. That was when the emergency klaxons started wailing. Medical emergency in engineering, came the ship-wide announcement. All medical personnel report to engineering immediately. I grabbed my emergency kit while Dr. Kane collected his controversial medicine case. We rushed through the ship's corridors, arriving at engineering to find Chief Engineer Bolt Ironwrench, a massive Thorian male, collapsed beside the primary power coupling. His rocky hide was cracked and bleeding, and sparks of electrical energy were still arcing across his body. What happened? I demanded, immediately scanning him with my medical tricorder. Plasma conduit explosion, reported his assistant, Engineer Pip Sparkstrike, a much smaller Thorian female. Chief Ironwrench was replacing a faulty coupling when the containment field failed. He took the full blast. My scanner readings were horrifying. Severe electrical burns, neural pathway disruption, and something I'd never seen before. His natural bioelectrical field was completely scrambled. Thorians were silicon-based life forms who relied on internal electrical currents for basic metabolic functions. The plasma explosion had essentially fried his nervous system. Get him to medical bay immediately, I ordered, but Dr. Kane was already kneeling beside the chief engineer. Dr. Sharpclaw, we don't have time, he said, examining the massive alien with practiced efficiency. His bioelectrical field is destabilizing. If we move him now, the disruption could cause total system failure. Then, what do you suggest? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew the answer. Dr. Kane was reaching into his medicine case. Thorians use electrical impulses similar to human neural activity. I have compounds that can stabilize bioelectrical fields and promote neural regeneration. Of course he did. Dr. Kane, you just finished explaining that human medicine isn't a universal cure-all. It's not, he agreed, pulling out several vials. But this is basic neurochemistry. The electrical impulses that control Thorian metabolism operate on the same principles as human neural networks. Engineer Sparkstrike looked between us frantically. Please, he's dying. Whatever you're going to do it now. Doctor. Kane began mixing compounds, something he called magnesium sulfate for electrical stabilization, thiamine for neural protection, and glucose for cellular energy support. According to my database, this combination should have caused instant cardiac arrest in any organic being. Dr. Kane, I said quietly, if you're wrong about this, you'll kill him. If I do nothing, he'll die anyway, he replied, approaching the unconscious Thorian. Chief Ironwrench, can you hear me? I'm going to give you some medicine. It might feel strange, but I need you to trust me. The chief engineer's eyes flickered open, focusing on the human with obvious effort. Human doctor? What? What are you doing? Saving your life, hopefully, Dr. Kane said, administering the compound mixture directly into the Thorian's primary circulatory access point. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The chaotic electrical discharges across Chief Ironwrench's body suddenly organized themselves into regular patterns. His cracked hide began to regenerate, and the random sparking ceased entirely. By the foundries of home, Engineer Sparkstrike whispered, his bioelectrical field is stabilizing. My scanner confirmed what we were witnessing. The human compounds had somehow provided exactly the right neurochemical support to allow the Thorian's natural electrical systems to reset and recover. It was like watching someone reboot a computer that had been struck by lightning. Chief Ironwrench sat up slowly, testing his movements. I feel normal. Better than normal, actually. What did you give me, human doctor? Basic neural support compounds, Dr. Kane replied. Your electrical systems just needed the right chemical environment to repair themselves. As we helped Chief Ironwrench back to his feet, I noticed we had attracted quite an audience. Engineering staff, off-duty crew members, and several passengers had gathered to witness another impossible human medical miracle. 2 for 2, someone whispered. Human medicine saved another life, said someone else. This was exactly what I had been afraid would happen. Listen, everyone, I announced loudly. These treatments were highly specific medical interventions. Human medicine is not some magical healing solution that works for every species under every circumstance. But I could see in their faces that my warnings were falling on deaf ears. They had witnessed 2 miraculous recoveries using human compounds. Logic and caution were no match for hope and desperation. Dr. Kane seemed to understand the implications as well. Dr. Sharpclaw, we need to talk privately. We retreated to a quiet corner of engineering, while Chief Ironwrench received congratulations from his colleagues. This is spiraling out of control, I said. By the time the Galactic Medical Council arrives, we'll have every species in the galaxy demanding access to human medicine. Maybe that's not entirely a bad thing, Dr. Kane replied thoughtfully. I stared at him. Are you insane? You just said human medicine isn't a universal cure. It's not. But maybe our approach to medicine could be. Dr. Sharpclaw, what if the problem isn't that human compounds are dangerous to other species? What if the problem is that we've been too afraid to study how they might be helpful? Afraid. We call it responsible medical practice. You call it responsible. I call it missed opportunities. How many lives could we have saved if we had been willing to experiment with cross-species medical applications? Before I could respond, Captain Steelfang's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. The Galactic Medical Council vessel has arrived, early. We made our way to the bridge, where the main view screen showed an imposing medical cruiser bearing the Council's distinctive silver and blue markings. Captain Steelfang stood at the center of the bridge, his expression grim. They're demanding immediate boarding rights, he announced. Apparently, news of our human medicine incidents has reached the highest levels of Galactic Medical Authority. A communication channel opened, revealing Council Director Sage Moonwhisper, an elderly Kethari female with silver fur, and the kind of expression that suggested she had seen every possible form of medical malpractice in her long career. Captain Steelfang, she said, her voice carrying absolute authority. We are boarding your vessel to investigate reports of unauthorized medical experimentation using unregistered human compounds. All medical personnel will submit to immediate questioning. Director Moonwhisper, Captain Steelfang replied formally. We welcome your investigation. However, I should mention that the treatments in question were successful. Lives were saved. Lives were endangered, she corrected sharply. The administration of untested alien compounds to non-human species constitutes a violation of 17 different medical safety protocols. The responsible parties will face serious consequences. Dr. Kane stepped forward. Director, I'm Dr. Marcus Kane, the physician who administered the treatments. I take full responsibility for my actions. Director Moonwhisper's eyes focused on him with laser-like intensity. Dr. Kane, you gave Kethari and Thorian patients human medicine without proper testing, authorization, or safety protocols. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done? I understand that 2 beings are alive today who would otherwise be dead, he replied calmly. You understand nothing, she snapped. You've created a precedent that could lead to medical chaos across the galaxy. Already, we're receiving reports of species demanding access to human compounds, medical facilities requesting shipments of human drugs, and patients refusing traditional treatments in favor of experimental human therapies. So it was even worse than I had thought. Director, I interjected, perhaps we should examine the actual medical results before making any final judgments. Dr. Sharpclaw, you are complicit in this violation. Your medical license is under review pending the outcome of this investigation. The Council boarding party arrived within minutes, a team of the galaxy's most distinguished medical experts representing 8 different species. They immediately confiscated Dr. Kane's medicine case and began conducting detailed interviews with everyone involved. Dr. Vera Healing Touch, the council's lead toxicologist, examined the human compounds with obvious horror. These substances should have killed both patients instantly. The fact that they didn't suggests either incredible luck or some fundamental misunderstanding of interspecies biochemistry. Or, Dr. Kane suggested, it suggests that we need to reconsider our assumptions about what constitutes dangerous medicine. Dr. Kane, Director Moonwhisper said coldly, your reckless experimentation has violated every principle of safe medical practice. The Council is prepared to classify human medicine as a Class A galactic hazard and prohibit its use on any non-human species. That was when young Zap Brightpaw, who had been quietly listening to the proceedings, suddenly spoke up. Excuse me, he said in his small but clear voice, but Dr. Kane didn't experiment on me. He saved me. Director Moonwhisper looked down at the cub with surprise. Child, you don't understand the implications. I understand that I was dying, Zap interrupted with the brutal honesty of youth. And now I'm not. I understand that, Doctor. Kane gave me medicine that worked when nothing else did. I understand that being alive is better than being dead, even if the medicine was scary. A murmur ran through the assembled medical experts. Here was a living, breathing example of successful human medical treatment standing before them, healthy and articulate, and completely unharmed by the compounds that should have killed him. Chief Ironwrench stepped forward as well. Director, I've been an engineer for 43 cycles. I know the difference between a malfunction and a repair. Doctor, Kane repaired my bioelectrical system using human compounds. The treatment was precise, effective, and safe. Dr. Healing Touch frowned. The safety profile could have been completely different. You were both extraordinarily fortunate. Were we? Dr. Kane asked quietly. Or were we the beneficiaries of medical knowledge that we've been too afraid to explore? He turned to address the entire council delegation. Directors, I've studied human medical history for 20 years. Do you know how many of our greatest medical discoveries started as accidents? How many life-saving treatments began as desperate attempts to help patients who were beyond conventional help? That's exactly the kind of reckless thinking that leads to medical disasters, Director Moonwhisper replied. And it's exactly the kind of thinking that leads to medical breakthroughs, Dr. Kane countered. Director, I'm not suggesting we abandon safety protocols. I'm suggesting we develop new ones. Protocols that allow for careful, controlled testing of cross-species medical applications. Dr. Healing Touch looked thoughtful. The biochemical interactions were remarkably stable. If we could understand why these particular compounds worked for these particular species, we could develop a new branch of interspecies medicine, Dr. Kane finished. Imagine the possibilities. Treatments that work across species lines. Medical solutions for conditions that have puzzled doctors for centuries. Director Moonwhisper was quiet for a long moment, studying the healthy patients and reviewing the medical data. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Kane, what you've done is still a violation of established protocols. However, the results are intriguing. The Council is prepared to offer you a choice. What kind of choice? 1. Face disciplinary action for unauthorized medical experimentation, or accept a position as head of a new Council research division dedicated to studying cross-species medical applications. Doctor, Kane smiled. Director, I accept the research position. And Dr. Sharpclaw, she continued, your medical expertise will be essential for this research. Would you consider serving as Dr. Kane's xenobiology consultant? I looked at the human who had turned my entire understanding of medicine upside down in a single day. Then I looked at Zap Brightpaw and Chief Ironwrench, both alive and healthy thanks to compounds I had dismissed as poison. Director, I said, it would be my honor. 6 months later, our joint research facility had developed 17 new cross-species medical treatments, saved hundreds of lives across 12 different worlds, and revolutionized the practice of galactic medicine. The facility itself was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Human doctors worked alongside Kethari healers, Thorian bioengineers collaborated with Zalarian chemists, and even the notoriously secretive Vaxian Medical Guild had sent representatives to study our methods. Dr. Sharpclaw. Dr. Kane called from across the main laboratory. The test results from the Gorbian liver enzyme trials are incredible. We've managed to create a compound that enhances their natural metal processing abilities while reducing toxicity by 73%. I reviewed the data with amazement. This could solve the chronic poisoning epidemic in the Gorbian mining colonies. How many lives are we talking about? Conservative estimate. About 50,000 miners who can return to work safely, plus their families who won't have to worry about losing their primary breadwinners to occupational illness. Through the laboratory windows, I could see our latest success story, a young Vaxian pilot named Rex Starwing who had been paralyzed in a spacecraft accident. Human physical therapy techniques combined with Vaxian regenerative medicine had restored full mobility in just 3 weeks. He was currently demonstrating his recovery to a group of visiting medical students who watched in fascination. You know what the ironic part is? I said to Dr. Kane as we reviewed the day's patient files. What's that? All this time, we thought humans were the dangerous ones. Turns out, the real danger was our own fear of trying something new. Dr. Kane laughed. Fear has its place in medicine. It keeps us cautious. But too much fear can be just as deadly as too little. Director Moonwhisper entered the laboratory at that moment, carrying a datapad with obvious satisfaction. Doctors, I have the final statistics from the Council's 6-month review. Your research division has achieved a 94% success rate across all cross-species treatments, with 0 fatalities and minimal adverse reactions. What about the remaining 6%? I asked. Treatment failures, but no harm done. The patients responded to conventional therapy instead. Dr. Kane, your insistence on careful protocols and gradual testing has prevented any serious complications. As I watched Dr. Kane accept congratulations from his colleagues, I reflected on how much had changed since that first day, when he walked into my medical bay with his case of apparent poisons. The galaxy was a healthier place now, not because humans had all the answers, but because they had asked better questions. Turns out, the most dangerous thing about human medicine wasn't the compounds themselves. It was the assumption that something that works differently must be wrong. And sometimes, the best medicine comes from the most unexpected places, even if it looks like poison to everyone else.